In the spring of 1789, in an attempt to quell the crisis spreading through his kingdom, Louis XVI called a meeting of the Estates General, which proclaimed itself the Constituent National Assembly. Its members wished to turn absolute monarchy into a constitutional monarchy. This came as a huge shock to the royal couple. Backed by his queen, Louis XVI ordered his troops to surround Paris in an attempt to dissolve the assembly. But Paris rose up. The king's troops refused to turn on the people, and the Bastille fell. The masses began to call for the queen's head.
The summer of 1789 was frightful for Marie Antoinette. And on October 5th, the women of Paris, accompanied by quite a lot of men, marched on Versailles, demanding bread from the king. But what they really wanted was the king inside Paris to prevent him from leading a counter-revolution. Marie Antoinette saw her bodyguards beheaded with knives or swords, and she herself was chased through her apartments. She hated the revolution, which is understandable, but she too was a hated woman. The hatred of some created hatred in others.
On October the 6th, under pressure from the mob, Louis XVI was forced to leave Versailles, leading the way with the heads of the royal bodyguard. On pikes. Crammed into a small coach, the royal family made slow headway, bombarded with insults and threats from a frenzied mob. That evening, they stayed in the only inhabitable apartment in the Tuileries Palace, the former royal residence, abandoned for a number of decades. Traumatized by the violence, the king and queen felt like prisoners of the people of Paris. Most of their close friends had abandoned them, but Fersen, still present in Paris, refused to distance himself from Marie Antoinette's side.
The members of the assembly were extremely optimistic. The only person who wasn't was the one who felt caught in a trap, the king. He would gradually realize that the revolution had gotten out of hand. So it was up to him to seize control of it and guide it back to what he had laid out in his speech of June 23, 1789, a revolution led by the king, a royal revolution.
He was a king who had been crowned in Reims, a sovereign by divine right, God's lieutenant on earth. So the notion of a constitutional monarchy that removed most of his power was unacceptable to him.
As the months went by, the king and queen attempted to break free of their isolation in a sham of courtly life. The assembly, now seated in Paris, continued to work on drafting a constitution which would deprive the king of most of his powers. The queen believed that the only way out was to flee from Paris to a stronghold where Louis could reassert his authority with a backing of loyal regiments, and thus impose a constitution of his choosing.
This was why, in February or March 1791, those supporters of the royal family began to organize their escape to Montmédy, where loyal troops were garrisoned. Because don't forget, some regiments supported the revolution. Fersen was in on the secret and helped the royal family plan their escape. They managed to sneak out of the Tuileries Palace, which was under close watch. Fersen wanted to accompany the king and his family to their final destination. But the king refused to let Fersen go any further.
June 23rd. All is lost, dear father. I am in despair. The king was arrested at Varennes, 16 leagues from the border. Please understand my pain and feel for me. I have time but to assure you of my respect and my love.